Hello there, you amazing viewers and subscribers. Welcome to a brand new video today. Now, there weren't one yesterday and the day before because unfortunately I wasn't feeling very well. I'm feeling a lot better today than I did yesterday. So, for this video, I was thinking I'm going to do two videos today. One's going to be about Doctor Who, and then there's this one going to be about Star Trek. So, this is going to be my review on Season 1 of Star Trek Voyager. Now, Voyager, as I said in me ranking video of the Star Trek series, TV series, Voyager is my second favourite. So, I'm going to review this season by Season 1. I'm going to do each video, there will be like a season review of each Star Trek series, instead of me doing a whole review on one series. I'm going to do a whole review. I'm going to do like a review on season by season by season. So I've started it with Star Trek Voyager. Now, I got two versions of DVDs of Star Trek Voyager. So I have the one that my amazing Uncle Tim gave me a couple of years ago, which is here in the Star Trek Voyager case from 2003. And I also own it here in the big form with the other seasons. So you've got season 1, 2, and 1 to 7 in one big box set, and then you've got them separately, which basically is like the same size as the box. So I'm talking about season 1. This is my review on season 1. Now, season 1 contains over 15 episodes broadcast from 1995. Well, basically, it was only broadcast in 1995, 15 episodes, then it came back for season 2 in 1995. Now, Star Trek Voyager is set in 2371, with the Federation and the Maquis at war with each other. Now, the Maquis want to reclaim their borders back from the Cardassians, which we see in Deep Space Nine, which is I also got here. So this is around about Deep Space Nine Season 2. So around about Deep Space Nine Season 2 of the Maquis, you have them. The Voyager is basically set around the same time period, to be honest with you, as Season 2. So, I love this season. I like the way it brings in a cameo appearance of Quark and even a cameo appearance of Deep Space Nine, the space station that Deep Space Nine is actually set on. Now, I absolutely do like this. I like the way you start off with the whole bit with the Cardassian warship, Galaxy warship, going after the old Maquis ship. And then all of a sudden you see them enter the Badlands and this plasma storm heads towards the Maquis ship. And they vanish, and then you go to the title sequence. Now, I love after the title sequence, I love the scene where you got them on Earth. Janeway's talking to Lieutenant Tom Paris, who basically betrayed the Federation, left the Federation, and went for the Maquis. And then on his first job, he was arrested. Yeah, long, complicated. I like the way Janeway talks to Tom Paris about him joining Voyager to try and track down the Maquis ship. Anyway, so after they depart from Deep Space Nine, they end up in big trouble because instead of searching when they go to the Badlands to search for this Maquis ship, they are pulled by the alien entity known as the Caretaker. So Voyager is there pulled from the Alpha Quadrant in the Badlands all the way to the Delta Quadrant. I was going to say Gamma Quadrant, never mind about that. Voyager was actually pulled to the Delta Quadrant where the Caretaker is using your way, and the Caretaker is searching for somebody to take his place to help protect the Okompa from the amazing Delta power known as the Kazon Nistrum. Now, the Kazon Nistrum contains over different sexes of Kazon. You have which is like sets. It's very, very complicated and stuff for the Kazon. So they're really difficult speech because their area of space keep changing. So when the Kazon are there trying to get hold of Okompa and the power systems, Voyager is joined by Neelix, who is a Telexian, and he joins them and he becomes their survey. So even though the Kazon wants Voyager's technology and they want the technology of the Caretaker, Janeway becomes obfuscated and she goes and destroys the array, so that Voyager has to stay in the Delta Quadrant, try and find another way home. And then she does that a big speech at the end of episode 1 where she goes, "We're alone, an untouched area of space. We've already made some friends here and some enemies. Even though that technology, it's going to take us 75 years to get back to Federation." I do like that. And then for the rest of the season, it's very bits and dabs, really. You got some good episodes. There's some episodes I think are a bit naff, in a way. Not a bit naff. Anyway, so there are some episodes in here that are pretty naff. So the episodes are in season 1 of Star Trek Voyager. It is very, very Oz, because the one I just described to you before is actually called The Caretaker. So, after 15 episodes, we have, as I say, parts 1 and 2 of The Caretaker, because that is a two-parter. Then we have Parallax with Ballard Torres when she actually breaks the chief engineer's nose, Ensign Kerry's nose. Time and again, it's kind of planet where Janeway and Tom Paris interferes in the past and they accidentally create a world. So then at the end of it, instead of the whole thing being destroyed, somehow they end up surviving because Janeway points the phaser at it and they survive at the pressure that will create by the Voyager team. Phase, I absolutely do like the phase in its episode 4 of, well, technically episode 5, but with Caretaker being two-part stories, a two-part episode. I do like the phage. I like the whole bit with the aliens where they come looking for the technology to steal people's lungs and stuff because their bodies are decaying and they're dying because of some deadly disease their race is actually suffering with. You got the cloud where Janeway is there trying to get coffee from a nebula, but the nebula turns out to be an alien creature that they've cut open by ramming the ship through it, and then they fire torpedoes to try and get out. So in a way, Janeway goes back to save the creature, which is another good. Eye of the Needle. Now, this one, I have to say, did surprise me. I have watched this. I haven't watched Voyager for a very long time, because I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who lately, so I haven't really watched Voyager for over a year. So this one kind of slipped out my memory, where Voyager discovers a wormhole, a hypersonic wormhole, and they end up contacting a Romulan that is from the past, not from the future. Not from the century they're in. Well, it's like 20 years before. So that one I found really, really interesting and stuff, I do have to say. And when you get to the next episode, which is X Post Frontal, in a way you have Tom Paris being accused of a crime of something he didn't commit, when it turned out to be the alien doctor himself doing the crime by murdering Linda Skill's husband. Very, very complicated and stuff. But I think the actor that played Tom Paris, Neil, did it really, really well, and showing him to be in pain and stuff is another great way. Emotions. Now, it's a kind of a good one because it's a Harry Kim episode, because Harry Kim ends up being transported to an alien planet in another dimension, in a way. So when they think they're actually transmitting their dead ends up on Voyager, which is another good story for Harry Kim, because Harry Kim's there telling them he's from Voyager, that he's not actually dead, so on and so on. It's a good one, especially when they get him back by him literally killing himself, so he gets sent back and then Voyager revives him in a good way. Prime Factors, I have to say, that one is a very complicated episode for me to enjoy. I do like little bits and dabs from it. I have to say out of it, I like how Tuvok believes that maybe one of the crew have something to trade. Now, State of Flux. Now, I love State of Flux. It's the very first episode. Well, so basically, it's the second episode of the Kazon in this season, and we see Seska betraying the Voyager crew, and it's very good, actually, the way they do it, because we think that she's Bajoran, that she's part of the Maquis, which turns out to be completely wrong. In fact, that she had herself altered to look like a Maquis, where in fact she's actually a Cardassian. A Cardassian that falls in love with Commander Chakotay, but stuff, complicated stuff in that relationship. So when she literally gives over a replicator to the Kazon and they collect up the system, it causes a system dynamic and it basically explodes in the Kazon's face. And the Kazons are dead apart from one survivor, which needs blood from the Voyager crew to try and survive. So when the Kazon ship comes again and with another bunch of Kazon, they actually killed him by sticking a needle into his neck. And then you see Janeway there with the phaser. And then at the end of the episode, you kind of have Chakotay making a little bit of a trap for Seska to fall in, and as well as Kerry, but Seska is the one that falls for the trap. Kerry doesn't, and then she is found out to be the Cardassian spy. And when they're about to arrest her into the brig, she has herself teleported to a Kazon ship, and it goes into warp. And basically that does lead into the next season, because Seska does return in season 2 and season 3. But that's the only thing I can say about that episode. Heroes and Demons is next. Now, this one I do find a bit daft. It's like the Doctor being a hologram going into the hologram program after it froze, after Harry, Kim, Mr. Tuvok and Chakotay was transformed into matter, into a prisoner. Because when Voyager again was experimenting so they can try and find a way to survive and get more power, they end up getting it from another alien creature. So the alien creature basically transmits them into energy to teach Voyager a lesson. So when Voyager finds out, because of Tuvok, it's all back to normal. They come back and Harry Kim's very, very confused, saying, "Where have I been, Captain?" Which is very complicated. Now, the next episode I do quite enjoy, because it has a... Chakotay is actually not in his body. He's literally flying around trying to protect the ship from the alien in the nebula that took over Tuvok. I do kind of like that story, even though I think it's absolutely amazing, and it's called Caretaker's Face. Now, the Face is, again, it's where they go back to visit the aliens from the Voyager. Now, in this one, they have kidnapped Tom Paris and B'Elanna Torres. But there's 2 versions of B'Elanna Torres now. You've got a human version, because B'Elanna Torres is actually half Klingon, so they kind of separated the 2 of them. So you've got a Klingon version of B'Elanna Torres, and then you've got a human version of B'Elanna Torres. Anyway, the Klingon escapes, and the Klingon gets killed, and then B'Elanna Torres gets the Klingon DNA back into her human body, so she becomes back to where she was. But it's a very, very great episode, and I like the way you see 2 versions of it. You've got the Klingon side of her, which is all feisty, and then you've got the human version of her, which is like really cowardly, and she's hiding and she's scared. Very, very great. I think that's a great dynamic for the 2 characters, for the same character, really. Jadid, which is when Neelix is alarmed that he has to meet a scientist that caused the death of his own race on a planet. That killed over 3,000 Thylaxes, including Neelix's family. So when this alien scientist was basically trying to get Voyager to go to the planet that he destroyed 15 odd years ago, he basically ends up trying to create a Thylaxium by bringing it back to life by using the biohazard in the transporter pattern bay, which ends up going wrong, and he ends up dying, with Neelix actually saying, "I forgive you for what he did." Now, the last episode is called Learning Curve. I do like the story, actually. It shows Tuvok to become a teacher. He's showing the Maquis what they can and can't do, because you've got some Maquis, there's like 4 members of Maquis that literally don't follow Janeway's instructions, and they just get fed up of it. So in a way, Tuvok starts teaching like an academia class to get them into the Federation side, so he can try and teach them what to do, which ends up working well. But when one of them threatens, like when one thinks one's going to die because of an explosion, Tuvok goes back and saves him, and it's a great episode. So that's mainly the episodes and bits of episodes from season 1. What can I actually tell you about season 1, though? Season 1, I have to say, is really, really good. So anyway, as it's set, like I say, in 2171, there are 2 different types of another Star Trek part of the Star Trek era going on at this point. It's basically, you have the introduction story to the Kazon in season 2 of Deep Space Nine, with the Maquis of Deep Space Nine, and that's mainly season 2. But when Voyager started, season 3 roundabout aired at the same time as Voyager season 1 did. So you kind of have like 2 Star Trek TV series going on at the same time. You have Deep Space Nine and Voyager, but also in the mix, set in 2371, we have the film Star Trek Generations, which is where you have Captain Picard go and meet Captain James T. Kirk in the Nexus, which is another video for another time when I do a review on a Star Trek video. Now, season 1 of Voyager, I don't really hear people talk about Voyager as much. Some people hate it, some people like it. You've got my best mate Jamie Arrowsmith, who is a massive fan of Star Trek Voyager and he loves it. He actually has a bit of a crush on Janeway, I have to say. Sorry, Jamie, if I've just embarrassed you, but you do have a crush on Janeway, and I don't understand why you have a crush on her, but that's the only thing I have to say. I do like Voyager. I like the bits. It has some good episodes in season 1. You got some good moments in there. You got some dodgy episodes. So yeah, so for my whole review of season 1 of Voyager, if you haven't seen Star Trek and you want to jump into Star Trek, really, I would recommend Star Trek Voyager, because not only is it a way for you to experience a Star Trek show, it's actually set in the Delta Quadrant, where you have other Star Trek shows set in the Alpha Quadrant, like Enterprise set in the Alpha, the original Alpha/Beta Quadrant, Next Generation Alpha and Beta Quadrant, Deep Space Nine Alpha and Beta, Discovery Alpha Quadrant and Beta Quadrant with the Kardashian, with the Klingons and their Romulan sector. Picard mainly round about the same section. So for this show to be set in the Delta Quadrant, and the way you have Voyager like pulled through, it's absolutely amazing. It's really, really great. So I do recommend Star Trek Voyager as a jumping on point if you want to watch a Star Trek show and you haven't got into it. Namely, I would recommend Star Trek Voyager or Star Trek The Next Generation. The other shows are a bit mixed match. So I would, if you want to get into Star Trek, I would recommend Voyager and The Next Gen, because Next Generation is set in the Alpha/Beta Quadrant, where you got Voyager just set in the Delta Quadrant. You meet some new interesting aliens like the Kazon, the Okompa. You got the people with the phage. I can't remember the actual species names. It's very, very complicated speech names. So yeah, Voyager is actually a great Star Trek show for you to jump into, and it's the only Star Trek show to start off with a female as captain, where you have Enterprise, original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, set with male captains, and this is the first female captain until Star Trek Discovery comes along and turns it with Michael Burnham. Instead of doing it like from the captain's point of view or from the bridge crew point of view, they actually do it from Michael Burnham's point of view, when she's like a commander, then she's not a commander because she's created a whole different effects and events, really. So Voyager is absolutely good. Season 1, I think, is a good introduction story to the crew. We have the Maquis, where you have B'Elanna Torres, Chakotay, and some others like Seska. And then you got the Voyager crew with Tuvok, Tom Paris, who becomes a lieutenant ensign, and instead of being there just to support Janeway, he just become an ensign. It's another good story. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of Star Trek Voyager. Is it one of your favourite episodes? Is it one of your favourite Star Trek shows? Let me know. Thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and share. And please remember to click on your com badge and say Elegize.